Quick introduction to why I wanted to include this in the discussion today. And I think something that hopefully you all know, but it's always worth kind of reminding ourselves, is that when you look at our bigger cousins, our French and Italian luxury goods industries, who are significantly bigger than the UK, I think there's something that's really special about Britain, though, and that is our entrepreneurship talent that we have here. And we really kind of foster young entrepreneurs, those new young businesses, really passionate founders and leaders who are wanting to do something new, buck a trend, do something better, and really drive growth in new ways. Combined with that entrepreneurial spirit, I think there's also a real desire from the bigger businesses and individuals to nurture that next generation of talent too, to help those younger businesses take those crucial first steps. That's very much true of Walpole, and that's why we founded Walpole Brands of Tomorrow nearly kind of 13 years ago now, to really support that next generation of talent coming through, but also provide mentorship from the bigger businesses. But also our fourth pillar of activity, mentorship programs, the Women in Luxury program, which Helen is very much championed at Walpole, to really see, our mission is to have 50% female representation on board. So we're wanting to support young businesses, but also female talent. And so we want to shine a light on some of the incredible female founders who've been through our Brands of Tomorrow programme. And please let me introduce our panel. Charlotte Semler, co-founder with Arabella Preston of Votary, a truly fantastic beauty brand that really combines performance-driven product with natural and sustainable values. To Anna Mason, a protege of Karl Lagerfeld, who went on to design for Valentino and Max Mara, and you went on to found Anna Mason London in 2013. And lastly, Vanessa Jacobs, founder of the Restory, the world's first technology-enabled luxury aftercare service. Thank you all for joining us today. It's a really lovely moment to be able to shine a light on you, but also some of the kind of women within the mentorship programs. I wanted to start the conversations for those of you that kind of, for those in the audience that don't know the brands. What was your inspiration for creating the business? Firstly, to you, Charlotte with Votary. What made you think, right, I'm going to create a beauty brand?
Oh, I'd been wanting to do a beauty brand for a couple of years, and then I was spending some time with my now co-founder Arabella, who's actually an ex-colleague of mine from a previous business, and she had become a makeup artist, and a quite high-profile makeup artist, and she was wittering on about how she was blending products at her kitchen table and using them on clients and how fabulous it was. And I kind of thought, well, I can work with that. Yeah. So it really went from there. We had the beginnings of some products, and we brought them to market and saw how people liked them.
And they're doing phenomenally well, aren't they? Really incredible, impressive growth in a very short period of time.
It's been a good ride.
Yeah. And much more to come. To you, Anna, tell us a bit about your inspiration. What drove you to create your brand?
I'd really always wanted to be a fashion designer, even from the age of 6, which is what every fashion designer always says. But so that is a cliche, but it is a truth. And I then worked for various people, as you just heard, and I reached an age where I had 2 children, and I thought, I still haven't done that thing that I really wanted to do. I'm going to do it. So I actually saved up a little bit of money and made my first collection and sold my first collection to friends at parties, and then did more trunk shows and more parties on the back of that, and grew it really as a word-of-mouth business. And it's grown from there. So the idea really for me was that despite the fact that I'd run out of money to properly market it, I thought I'm going to get it out there however I do it, which is what I had to do.
Yeah, and doing brilliantly well as well. And to you, Vanessa, with the Restory, what was because you came from a finance background, is that right?
I'm going to apologise ahead of time because I have this cold that I just can't shake. So
well,
I'm desperately trying not to cough.
Thank you for being here.
So I moved to London from New York many years ago, and one of my first experiences with aftercare here in London was my big ambition at the time when I came here was I was going to leave investment banking and I was going to go into management consulting. And I had my big interview at Accenture, and my stuff had been in a shipping container for 14 weeks, and it came over kind of crushed and dusty and dirty. I had taken the long route through Lisbon. It's a long story. So, but I had this suit and I had these boots, and it was my power outfit, and I brought the boots into some local cobbler just to get the heels done. And I came back to pick them up, and the boots were destroyed. He was super unapologetic about it. They were still dirty. He told me he wouldn't clean them because it wasn't profitable for him. my jaw just, coming from New York, my jaw
Yeah,
just
I was gonna
absolutely
say,
hit the
phenomenal
floor. I was like, oh my
service.
God, I can't believe this. Isn't this the home of Savile Row? But it was that was, by far the most dramatic, but it was kind of a lot of subsequent experiences to that too. I felt like I'd take my husband's suits to the dry cleaner that he would have, made on Savile Row, and like they'd just put them in this hot presser and they'd come back all burned, or you go through the trouble of having an alteration and it still wouldn't be
Destroys
quite
it,
right.
but
And I was just like, I just don't understand why it's like this. And but I had nailed my job interview at Accenture and I was quite happy, but the idea just kept chewing away at my brain for like 8 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And then, like you, I kind of came to a point in my career, my family, and I decided I had this idea. I felt like the world had moved on to a place where that might be receptive to an idea like this, and so I decided to either have a go at it or let it go and let somebody else do it. So I had a go at it. It's been a much longer road than I anticipated, but it's it's working and it's fun.
You're getting terrific traction already and some really big key accounts as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I think the timing is perfect with the kind of the profile of sustainability, and then to combine that with the consumer trends as well. It feels like the optimum
So when we
moment
started,
for
none
us
of that was there, and it was
for sure.
good kind of that we had those early stumbles, because had we not, it's taken so long to kind of get it right. We wouldn't have been ready when the wave was coming, and now we're sitting on the, we're just waiting for the wave to come ride it. So
to come through. And I think you've perfectly kind of touched on that. I wanted to talk a little bit about success, but also things you kind of learned along the way that could have gone better. Maybe I can ask you that first, Vanessa. What has been the key thing for success for you, and then also what's been the learning where you've just thought, I just wish we'd done that differently?
I often think about what I would have done differently, and
that's being women, right, isn't it? Forever looking back and thinking, I should have done that differently.
I definitely would have been more. I started this to scratch an itch, really. I really thought it was going to be a mommy hustle, and it was going to, I had made some angel investments, but didn't really know what I was doing, and I had this finance background, and so I felt like it was supposed to just be a mommy hustle and a way to get some rookie mistakes out of the way and start my reforge myself as an entrepreneur and investor, and then, but unless I started it, I wouldn't have found the opportunity. It wasn't out there. So in some ways, I just didn't. In some ways, I couldn't have done it any differently, because it's not the kind of thing you would have found otherwise.
Yes, and I think that's so kind of interesting. One of the brilliant speakers we had at Walpole was Elizabeth Day, and we talked about the notion of failure. And it's been fantastic to see that shift from failure being this kind of terrible experience that you kind of regret, to being just part of the process. And what you need, as any scientist would know, failure is just part of the kind of ultimately the experiment to get to the
Sometimes
success
if you're
point.
wiser, you probably wouldn't even have done it.
Yes, true. That's true. And Charlotte, how about with Votary and the businesses that you started previously as well? What's been those kind of critical things that you've got right, but also the things where you've kind of made your greatest learnings?
I think there are some brands that just catch a wave.
Yes. Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned is you can't really learn from other brands. I mean, you can learn some stuff, right? But there's a lot of stuff you can't learn, because what works for one brand doesn't work for another. It's a bit like people. You can't get two people to do what you want them to do by treating them in the same way. In the end, you have to sort of tailor it. So I guess one thing I've learned is don't look too much at what other people say they've done and what worked, because it's not going to work for your brand. And there's a lot of timing and luck. So, Milo, the first business that I founded, was either created or caught a wave, and no one will ever know which, and it kind of doesn't matter. There was a wave. And I think the same is true of Votary. I think we've been very lucky. We were just in time. We were just simple things like we were in time before Instagram changed their algorithm. We built a really significant following without ever paying a penny. And I don't know that that can be achieved today. I mean, it's genuine, I don't know, because I'm not an expert. But, so a lot of it is luck and timing. But of course, if you work hard enough for long enough, your luck will come.
Yes.
And that's the thing to bear in mind.
Yes, very much that can we hear from a number of our kind of founder entrepreneurs is that, you know, the majority of it's 98% perspiration and 2% luck, basically, all of that effort. And how about you, Anna? What's been key to your success so far, and anything that you might have done differently along the way?
Well, there are a few pivotal moments. Certainly selling our winter collection to Net-a-Porter 2 years ago.
Huge, yeah.
Was huge. So it took us from being solely made to order, me knowing all my customers face to face, to actually not knowing who half of them are because they're buying through Net-a-Porter. And that obviously pushed us into a sphere that, and a much bigger realm that we, you know, had no insight into at all. But that equally has led to the modist, moda operandi, Saks. So now we're crossing the pond now, which is really exciting.
Congratulations.
That's our next market. I think in terms of things that you need to know is it is so much harder than we make it look. But it really is harder, and I think that you just said the exact thing that I would say. It's like it is 92% of sheer graft, and 8% of whatever that little magic thing is that you've got.
Luck of the moment, and just as you say, the kind of trends all coming at the right time.
High tolerance for pain.
Yes, I'm sure high tolerance for pain. And I think that you all kind of mentioned something there that, you know, with startup, it takes a huge amount of energy, drive, you know, passion. You've got to work all hours, be that at your desk, travelling out at events with clients. And we hear that from all of our brands of tomorrow. It's just the sheer time and energy investment. But how do you even start to kind of balance your energy so that you maintain some time for personal life, or does that just go out of the window and you'll pick that up in 6 years' time? How have you managed to do that? Because you've got a young family as well. You were saying on the phone.
I mean, it comes and goes. So right now I have a little more time, so I try to pay it back. And then there are other times where everyone's just going to have to sit tight, and my husband's just going to have to.
Yeah, exactly. See you later.
Muddle through it, and then you just gotta let a lot of fires burn.
Yes.
And then sometimes you just got to make friends with the monster.
And just be at peace with that, right? And not to be, as many women are, tied up with guilt about things. How about you, Anna? How do you kind of maintain that energy to give the business everything?
I just try and keep it as simple as possible. Yeah. So, you know, my workspace is quite close to my house. Yes. I can walk there. My children, you know, the school my daughter goes to, she has to walk past my workspace to go home. I think I really had to just dial it right down to the bare, most simple ways of operating, really, and you know, rely on the amazing things that you can rely on, like the Cardo deliveries, food box deliveries, and just, you know, really taking away the domestic a little bit, trying to keep that very simple and in one box. And so you can focus your energies on your business and your children. You know, I think the domestic can sometimes just take over.
Just reduce complexity.
Which is awful because it's the most...
the dull bit.
It's the dull bit,
It doesn't bring you the joy that you need to kind of sustain the energy for business.
Help you actually forge ahead either, particularly.
So it's very distracting and very time-consuming. And Charlotte, how about you? How do you manage that, the energy that you need to drive the business?
Simplicity, but simplicity particularly in running the business. So I've got quite ruthless about what we do and don't do as a business and what I will and won't take on. So we have had a laser focus on the channels that we wanted to make work, and we have let other things go. And that has worked quite well. You simply can't do everything.
No. And really just prioritise.
And that has worked really well for us.
And something that's a couple of questions here. Do you think there is kind of entrepreneurship DNA? Is it something that you can learn? What's your thoughts there? Is it something that you are inherently an entrepreneur and that's what you're going to do regardless of your education or jobs you've done before, or is it something that you can learn through experience? What do you think?
I think it's a bit like talking to addicts about drugs. I'm not sure you're talking to the right.
I was going to say the same.
I have no opinion on that. No insight to offer.
How about you, Anna or Vanessa?
I had no idea I was an entrepreneur. I just thought I was a fashion designer doing what I wanted to do, you know.
And it's just come back to
and then, you know, people go, but you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I'm like,
I'm a fashion designer.
Is that my title? I don't know. You know.
Yeah. How about you, Vanessa? What do you think? Businesses you've invested in as well, actually.
I mean, some people, like, I guess, I don't know, Richard Branson's, clearly that's probably part of their DNA. I think for most people, it's risk tolerance.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point.
But
Yeah.
no, I think it's, I mean, you learn it just like
Yeah.
any other job.
Yeah, it's just you can
It's
apply
just
the
a-
rules you've learned from other businesses
Yeah.
to creating your own.
So sometimes I joke, I'm like, I should have just went and worked for like Goldman Sachs or something. I mean, there's so many
So
more
much
easier
easier.
ways to make money.
It wouldn't be as
And
fun,
being an
though.
entrepreneur isn't, well, at least so far hasn't been quite lucrative. So,
So far,
but
exactly.
I
Still
know
to
if I
come.
was at Goldman Sachs,
Yeah.
it would be, or even when I was at Accenture, it was.
Yeah.
I still work the same hours.
Yes.
So I think if you have the profile of someone who's
Yes, hardworking.
a bit of a masochist, then that's just kind of what you do.
It's true.
And you'll do it
Actually,
anyway.
maybe that's what we've got in common.
I think that's probably it. You've got to love the pain.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to hate it and you're going to stop.
Yeah.
You know,
But if you did
you've got,
something else, would you have found the pain in any job if you went work?
well, I think I did pretty
Revel.
successfully actually, but yeah, but that's not necessarily a good thing. But no, I do think that you have to have a high pain threshold and you have to love a problem, because
Yes. Yeah.
the point about running a small business or growing a business is that the only thing you need to be focused on a given day is what's gone wrong. The stuff that's working is just not relevant to your day-to-day. It's all the problems that you're fixing. So, you know, if that gets you down, it's probably not for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
The guy who
that's a
started
great
that
insight.
company, Shippo, he says, you have to be sufficiently pissed off with the status quo.
Yeah, quite, that's something that's got to make you just find a better way of doing things, hasn't it? You've got to get to that kind of annoyed stage to find the kind of motivation to improve something. How important is it to have a partner in the business? So, you know, Charlotte, obviously you and Arabella, you founded Votary.
Yeah.
Has that, how was that for you? Was that kind of critical when you looked at the next business? It would be with somebody else, or?
So I've tried it both ways.
Yeah.
I think having the right partner can actually be really crucial. So Arabella and I have a really good relationship in terms of how we work together strategically. So when we're making strategic decisions about the business, I feel really comfortable that we come away having made the right decisions. And that's not necessarily about having a lot of business experience. Arabella came to it with much less operational and financial and strategic experience than I did. It hasn't made her a less good or less equal partner. She's very brilliant and we make good decisions, or decisions we feel good about. I think doing it on your own is incredibly lonely, and it can also get quite boring. To be really honest, you know, there are moments when it's just the hard grind of it just becomes very dull.
Yeah. And then actually having somebody to work with in that way, so you can kind of the companionship and the camaraderie, I suppose. That
Absolutely.
You can share successes and failures in one go.
Yeah.
And how about both of you? Do you have partners behind the scene that you work with? How does that work for you?
I don't have a partner. I have two sort of muses and faces of the brand who work with me. We're a sort of triumvirate who have very kind of solid reactions to certain problems that we have, and certainly share a style sensibility. I have a financial advisor. I have my husband, who gets to hear all the bits that I can't mention to all of them.
He gets all the best.
Poor thing. And
Does he title himself out?
he does my comms.
So he's got a funny title for himself. I forget what he said.
I can't remember what it was now actually either. It seems to be ever changing. But I think that there are definitely moments when you do it on your own that are incredibly lonely. You know, you do have those moments where you think, I really can't talk to anyone about what just happened.
Who can I share that with?
That's it.
Yeah.
I fortunately haven't had that many of them. Invariably, I'd say that they're often personal or political issues within a team structure of things. When somebody's disgruntled or somebody's had a really bad day doing something, sometimes those can be the most stressful things that you have to deal with running your own business. I think that from my point of view, you know, I'm really just trying to make a really beautiful product.
You do.
So actually, I feel that that's quite a simple starting point, if that makes sense, because it's a very, very clear message. So that helps to keep remembering that that's what we're trying to do, and also to remember that we're making a beautiful product that is a luxury product. So it isn't actually rocket science.
Yeah.
It is something that we should enjoy
Yes,
and
it should be fun,
take
right,
pleasure
all our
out of
jobs.
doing whilst we're doing it. So I think that for me, I always try and remember that when we're having problems. I try and go, okay, let's boil it back down
Yes.
to what we're actually
Keep
doing
perspective.
here and keep some perspective and, you know, try and keep a lid on all the other things that bubble up under the
quite.
surface.
And that's a great point. It should be fun, right? You know, you created your own businesses to have a sense of ownership and be able to accelerate your growth, so you should be able to enjoy it. What about how important, I suppose, kind of aligned to the partnership and something that you work with is also the mentorship. And obviously, you know, we've got, you know, lots of years of experience at Walpole in terms of building those relationships and supporting those relationships. How important has mentorship been to you, both through Walpole, but perhaps where you've had mentorship elsewhere? Has that been something that's been really critical to success?
So I kind of want to answer half the question from before, if you don't mind.
Please.
So as I explained, I kind of wobbled into this and then kind of later found my footing. And I was a sole founder, and I for a long time, and a lot of people, I would, you know, talk to potential investors, and they'd be like, "We don't like sole founders. You have to get a co-founder."
Okay.
And I would, you know, I've been married for 14 years, so I'm like, I know you don't get married just for the sake of getting married. It doesn't work. So I kind of held back, and but I had these two great captains who are a lot younger than me, but they. And they really kind of grew into themselves. So I kind of promoted them to co-founders, and they've really taken that like very seriously and grabbed the reins. And we have very different areas of the business that we're responsible for. So it's like a really good balance. And I think you know, we're all from different countries, and we're different ages, and like it's just so I think that's been critical to the work life, you know, just to being able to do everything. And then recently we've added some more senior people to the leadership team, and two of them, and the two that we've added are far more experienced than me in a lot of areas. So to the question of mentorship, there's I found there's a lot of charlatans out there. So there's somebody who like look quite promising, and then you're you know, and then you're like, oh, all right, well,
this didn't work.
I think that was a frog. But then but then you find some that are just like, they're just
absolute
gold
gems.
And so I guess to your point of like what, you know, just take what, when you've got it, like hold on to it, the rest of it just
let it go.
I think that the challenge with mentorship can be that people who have successfully grown businesses no longer have any idea what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. That's one. That's one issue. And then the other issue is this challenge of people believing that what has worked for one brand will work for another. And I've just reached a point where I don't necessarily believe in that anymore.
So it's finding, you know, the right mentor who can understand your business, provide some guidance, but also kind of let you grow at your own pace and the rate you need to grow.
And who doesn't think that what has worked in one place will work in another, because it might not.
No, it could be, as you say, every business is individual, and every time that you found the business in is an individual moment as well, isn't it? You mentioned something there about the investors. Actually, that was, I hadn't heard that before. About an investor saying, I don't want to invest in you because you're a sole individual. I wanted to talk a little bit around investment. We've seen through Brands of Tomorrow, and I'm probably making a massive generalisation here, so apologies to all if I offend anybody in the generalisation. But, you know, we see our female founders tend to undervalue themselves and their how important they've been the success of the business, and will often also undervalue the business as well, or push off finding investment right until they're so 100% confident in proof of concept. And we don't necessarily see that with you know, some of our male founders. And I also read somewhere that 83% of venture fundraising globally still went last year to male companies, but it was improving in terms of women. How have you find it from raising investment as female founders? Has it been an easy journey, more challenging? Where are you at with that journey?
I don't know, really, because, I mean, the trouble with doing something that hasn't been done before is that nobody likes it.
No proof of concept, right?
In a service business, like, traditionally, it's, you know, there's been a lot of barriers to scale, and so, you know, you can tell them that you're breaking down those barriers, and that, you know, okay, it's not Facebook, but it does scale. Like, they kind of got to see it first, because it's never, they don't have any reference point.
Prove it.
And, you know, investors have bosses, you know, if they're institutional, they've got bosses, and, you know, it's, you know, you could give money to your 15th, I don't know, SaaS platform,
Yeah.
you know, but if it ticked all the boxes, you're not going to get fired
Yeah,
for it.
it's
If you
a
took
safe
some
investment,
flyer
right?
on the service company that promised you that they could break down barriers to scale, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
so there's that kind of just challenge in the nature of the business. Some of it might be, you know, maybe the way I was telling the story. Some of it's just, some of it was you know, the whole sustainability zeitgeist only just came
Yes.
about in like kind of 2018 in
Yeah.
a really strong way. And then if it's, you know, some of it has to do with me being a woman and us being a 3 female founder team. I don't know it.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's
Yeah.
ever going to tell you that.
No, you might. Exactly. So how do you kind of breathe that in a way?
I mean, so this last raise where we had 2 men on the leaderboard was,
Yes.
you know, was a lot easier,
Was
but
it?
the business is a lot more mature.
Exactly. It's hard to know what was the critical factor there.
Yeah,
totally.
exactly. So-
And Anna and Charlotte, how about you in your investment journeys?
Well, I got some investment just about 2 years ago, but I had tried actually before that, and I have to say, the people who invested in me were actually all fans of the brand.
Yes.
So the reason
You've
why
done
they
relationship
invested,
build.
they had an emotional response to my brand, and they had already decided that they wanted to invest. But before that, I had loads of conversations with lots of different people about investment. And one of the questions that I kept being asked was, what's your USP? And I was like, it's my brand that's my USP. My clothes are my USP. What makes your clothes different from everyone else's? They look like this, and they just couldn't get it. And they were like, why can't you make things that have waterproof legs that make it kind of like a new thing?
Just can't.
But yeah, it just was, you know, well, actually, this is just fashion. Oh, but what is it that makes your fashion so special? So I think, and actually a lot of those questions, so sorry, did come from men. But like, they also came from men who work in a financial background, and they're used to dealing with big amounts of money, and they were like, why are you only asking for 100,000? Why aren't you asking for 6 million? And I'd be like, because I don't think I'm going to get 6 million for 20% of my company right now. But, you know, so actually, I think it's the right question at the right time with the right people, you know, investing in your business, you know, at the right moment. And then maybe some of these questions don't exist. And that's certainly something I found,
good point.
you know, when we did get the investment. We didn't have to deal with those kinds of questions anymore.
Yes, having the time, exactly. I think you've got a good point. The timing is absolutely critical there, the business being proven enough to make it an easy conversation. And Charlotte, what's your experience been?
So we've taken the decision not to have investment, and that's really about that laser focus that I was talking about, that it's really important, particularly to me, because I've been through a venture-backed business before. I think it's incredibly important that we are able to focus 100% on the work and the problems, and that we can make the right decisions about the product and the business that will give us the long-term growth that we want. So because of that, Votary remains mine and Arabella's. And there are definitely times when I know that we are making decisions that we would not have made so easily if we had been looking over our shoulders. And we just have more time to do the work.
It's a really good point, because it brings many great things, investment, but also, to your point, you lose control of your business.
But not necessarily that, it just affects the way your mental processes work. So it's really easy to sit on the phone with Ari and go, I really think we've screwed this up and it's not going to work, and let's yoink it, as my teenage kids would say, and just forget it ever happened. And you know, it's cost us whatever it cost us, doesn't matter, you know, money gone, water under the bridge, but we just move on. And that conversation becomes really complicated when you've got investors.
For sure.
And I just don't want that complexity in our lives at this point. Doesn't mean it won't change in the future, but for now, that's very much where we're at.
Thank you. I'm kind of keeping one eye on time. Forgive me for looking at my watch. I'm conscious we need to go to our last session. So any quick questions from the audience? We have got time for questions in the drink session. Please, question there.
They say to me, oh, it's just business. But I always just take it so personally. And do you feel the same way? Or can you separate your business from your enthusiasm about your business?
I rage. I bang around the studio and go crazy, and I was like, I cannot believe they said that about this, you know. But then it's gone, because actually, if I kept hold of that emotional response to that, I wouldn't make the next thing. So I think, certainly for me, because I start from a creative standpoint, that's how it starts, the whole brand for me. I get very offended when somebody doesn't like what I've done, but I also realise that it's horses for courses, and if I believe in it and I think it's okay and it's the right thing, then I have to keep going, and there will be somebody out there who also believes the same thing. So if it's a response to my product, I do actually rage about it, but I do also let it go eventually.
I tend to just I let it go these days. I really believe that, you know, Votary will not be for everyone, and that's just completely fine. We don't do, you know, we're up against the big cosmetics companies who do loads of consumer research, lots of this, lots of focus group, lots of that. We don't do that. We say, what do we want for our skin? What do we want in our bathrooms? We make the best possible product that we possibly can, and we launch it. And if some people don't like it, that's fine. Everybody's different. We love it, so we'll keep it for as long as we want it.
I think I don't know. I'm quite a practical person, but I think you can't. I mean, I don't. If anyone says they don't like your work, or they don't, whatever they're going to say to you, I mean, yeah, some of it just does get to you. And so I'm very much about managing my energy during the day. So I know if I have to do something where I'm really on, but like returning that phone call might result in some piece of information that's going to knock that off. Like I'll just blow off the phone call. So I try to.
Yeah, you've got to. It's a really good point actually to manage your ownership.
So it's both, I guess.
Don't read emails after 9 p.m.
Yeah, it's a mistake you're never going to see.
Because it's never good news at that time.
So right. Yeah. That's good advice. So I'm going to wrap up the session now. Thank you so much for joining us, particularly Vanessa. Thank you for joining us when you weren't feeling so great as well. And a really brilliant session. There's time to talk to all three of our panellists during the drinks afterwards as well, if you have any one-to-one questions. So huge thank you to you. Good.